So, I've had more than a few people asking me to talk about this new Netflix Castlevania show, and since I have a few other videos that still need a little bit of time in the oven, I'm gonna do a quick rundown of this show and why it's actually pretty good. Yeah, no, it's not perfect, no, but it's definitely way better than it has any right to be. So this is the first installment of what I'm gonna call Cosmonaut Quickie! Now, in this case, the word quickie is pretty literal because, yeah, this show is really short, and it feels short. That seems to be the main complaint that most people have about it, is that, yeah, it's awesome, this show is really cool, but there's only 4 episodes. And those 4 episodes are around like 22 to 25 minutes long. This means that the whole season is shorter than your average movie. Now they feel even shorter because the show's actually really engaging. I didn't really intend on watching the whole thing in one sitting, but it was just so quick and easy, I was like, well, I might as well. Now, I don't really think this is a bad thing. Personally, I saw this season as more of a pilot episode than like a full-on season. Think of the super long, like hour-and-a-half pilots for shows like Twin Peaks or Battlestar Galactica. This is here to sell you on the show so these guys can afford to make more episodes. So don't be turned off by the shortness of it. If anything, it means you have even less of a reason not to watch it. So anyway, this show is obviously based on Castlevania, but not Castlevania like in the first game. You know, the one called Castlevania. I'm saying Castlevania way too much. This is partially based on Castlevania 3 and Symphony of the Night, kinda like put together. Castlevania 3 features the first time canonically that a Belmont fights and defeats Dracula, so it makes sense that this is the game being adapted. Plus, the events that prelude Symphony of the Night are also shown here, since Alucard is actually a playable character in Castlevania 3, and because Symphony of the Night is the most popular Castlevania game, so you gotta have stuff from that in this show, at least a little bit. In this show, at the beginning, we see Dracula's motivations leading to his demonic wrath on the land, and after that, we follow Trevor Belmont on his odyssey to fight the creatures of the night. I should start by saying if you're a fan of the series, this is insanely faithful. That's the thing that blew me away the most, being someone who really likes Castlevania. Sometimes. There are some creative liberties taken in obvious places, because in the original games, the characters didn't really have character, if you know what I mean. Trevor didn't really have much to say at first. He actually didn't say anything at all. In this show, we see him as a drunken outcast, and it takes a little while for him to accept the fact that he should use his abilities to help people. I like that he isn't just the hero man who does what's right all the time with no questions asked. He doesn't have a heroic introduction scene of him saving someone from a demon. No, the first thing he does is get his ass kicked in a bar. Most of the time, he doesn't even really feel like doing anything other than drinking and sleeping. Dracula's character is also pretty faithful, since he's the only guy who's in just about every game. He's the one who's the most fleshed out in the series. I'd say all in all, the first episode, which just prominently features Dracula, is probably the best one. It's definitely the most emotionally moving. There's also little tiny details that fans are sure to notice. There's obvious stuff like some of the scenes being pulled straight from the games, but the show is also full of like cute little stuff, like Dracula's teleportation. That's exactly how he does it in the games. That's exactly what it looks like. Even the look of his castle is spot on. Like, you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's Dracula's castle. That's what it looks like. Plus, the last episode literally has Trevor platforming on giant metal cogs. Yeah, it's Castlevania. The people who made this show very obviously know the games pretty well. Now, if you've never played a Castlevania game and you don't know anything about nothing, you can still fully enjoy this show. If anything, it'll probably make you at least a little interested in the series. The show has pretty good production value that most people could appreciate, most notably the voice acting and the writing. Every performance in this show is great, most notably Dracula and Alucard.
There are no innocents! Not anymore! Any one of them could have stood up and said, no, we won't behave like animals anymore.
Dracula is so good in this show that you kind of start to think that maybe he didn't really do anything wrong. It's not like he's the one ripping these people's faces off. The animation in this show ranges from really good to just a little rough, which is to be expected from an animated show that's just getting on its feet. Every animated miniseries has at least one budget episode, and in this show, it's the second episode. Before and after episode 2, there are a lot of pretty good animated action sequences, particularly the fights in the last 2 episodes. Even when the animation isn't awesome, it isn't really that bad either. And if you aren't the sort of person who notices stuff like that, you probably won't really mind that much. The one thing that bugged me a lot, and this is kind of a personal thing, was that there's not really any iconic songs from the series. At first I thought it was because the funky beats of the original games may not really fit with the tone of the series. I don't know, I can get behind this. However, the actual soundtrack of the show already has a slight synth beat underneath all the orchestrations. This is likely meant to emulate the feel of the games, so if you're gonna do that and have music that technically wouldn't make sense in the context of the show, then why not have at least 1 or 2 songs from the series? My first guess is that they didn't get the rights, but it looks like Konami gave them the rights to literally everything else, so I don't know. Another thing I really did like a lot was the story and the plot. I like how we really get to see how these people would react to this apocalyptic event. In the second episode, we see accounts from a bunch of townsfolk on how they feel about all the crazy shit happening. We also see people cleaning up after nightly demonic raids. It really adds a nice level of depth to the world. Overall, the pace of the show is a lot slower than expected, but I don't really think that's a bad thing. From beginning to end of this first season, Trevor hasn't really gotten that far in his adventure. There are a surprising amount of scenes with people just talking about their values and beliefs. Religious figures are shown as evil and corrupt, while the drunken, selfish practitioner of witchcraft is shown to be the most virtuous person around. It feels like a blend of Berserk and Game of Thrones. A lot of animated ultra-violence, but a lot of intrigue and world building as well. Overall, the show keeps you watching for the entire 90-minute duration, and it's a promising look at what to expect in later seasons. I'm actually glad it ended up being good, because I really didn't think it would be. Most of the time when you hear about an animated video game TV show, you're gonna assume that it's not very good. But it's actually pretty good, so you should definitely go ahead and watch it. It shows that it's actually a good thing when an adaptation is faithful to the original work, and I'm excited to see what Season 2 is gonna be like. Solid 7 out of 10, worth a watch.